Welcome
Welcome
to Inside Al Snow's Head.
Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to Inside Al Snow's Head. I am Jared Orr, joined by our host, Al Snow. Al, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. If I were doing any better, I'd be jealous of myself, Jared.
Well, that's awesome. It's a beautiful day here. We finally got to sit down and get this recording going. I know that when we first started talking about working on this project, you had mentioned how busy you were, and I said, you know what, don't even worry about it, man. We're gonna figure it out. And holy shit, are you busy? Constantly have stuff going on. Before we get going on the podcast, I want to take a second to talk about one of the things that you spend a lot of time doing, and that is some of the new shirts over at collarandelbowbrand.com. You guys just showed the new military themed shirts over there. What are some of the other shirts that you've got going on over there at Collar and Elbow Brand?
Well, I'm really excited about the military themed shirts because we're contributing a portion of the proceeds to the American Legion. The American Legion's it's kind of an unsung hero for our veterans. They do
Absolutely.
so much good for all of the veterans that have, served for, this country. And, we just thought that this would be some way that we could kind of give back and say thank you, not just to the veterans themselves, but to the American Legion for all that they do. I was really surprised at all of the different programs and the different activities that they have that help the veterans both while they're serving and especially when they come back home, and to help them integrate back into life again, and to help deal with, they have a version of their own Wounded Warrior project where 100% of the funds go to the veterans that were injured in war. It's a great cause. The shirts are fantastic. They're really cool designs. It's a nice new olive green military color. Go to collarandelbowbrand.com and buy one today and help support the American Legion and the veterans who have allowed us to have the freedom that we enjoy.
Absolutely. The shirt is awesome. Seen a few of our military personnel that have posted pictures wearing those, whether it be on Twitter or Facebook, which you can give Collar and Elbow Brand a follow there as well, and see some of the stuff that's going on. And I almost hate it because it sounds like a cheap plug. I hate the fact that you own the company and run this company, because it's these shirts are awesome. I'm not just here talking about them. I am a customer myself. I've got a few, and these t-shirts are not like your typical t-shirt. They're so, I don't even know how to explain it. They're almost like that jersey bed sheet material. They're so soft and comfortable that you get them in 2 days. And it's an awesome shirt, and it's really cool to be able to let everyone know that I'm a wrestling fan without walking around with a half sweaty naked man on the front of my shirt.
Yeah, that's a little weird, when you do those kind of things. But,
yeah, there are times.
Each to his own.
There are times that I may or may not do that, and again, that's nobody's business here. But either way, these shirts.
It just depends on the bar you go to, right, Jared? It just depends on the bar.
Listen, I go where the drinks are cheap, so don't judge. This is just an awesome opportunity to get these shirts and to help out and check out. There's so many different shirts there for men and women. collarandelbowbrand.com. And one of the things that sticks out to me about it was that when you said that this isn't your brand, this is our brand. And so for the wrestling fans to be able to have an opportunity to partake in something, you almost have a responsibility as a wrestling fan to check out these shirts. collarandelbowbrand.com, guys. So just wanted to give them a shout out and thanks for helping putting this show together.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you've got a ton of other stuff going on right now, and you are now a few weeks into being the owner of Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW. And for the fans that don't know, that's where guys like John Cena and Brock Lesnar and Batista and a ton of other stars have gotten their start. And you kind of got that thing going now. If you're an average wrestling fan, a guy that tunes into Raw and SmackDown, why would we turn into OVW? What do you got going on over there that we should be checking out?
Well, I'm still in the process of going through the transition of and acquiring control over OVW. I've already taken a more active role and starting to build both the talent roster back up and the presentation. It's going to be exciting and it's going to be interesting. As far as why a fan might want to tune in is simply you love wrestling. I mean, that right there is a big thing in itself, is that if you love wrestling, then you're going to see a great wrestling show. But I can say, and man, kind of like you were saying about like collar and elbow, I feel funny kind of tooting my own horn, but every time I've been involved, I was involved with when we had the WWE developmental program, because that was what originally first brought me down. Was they sent me here as a developmental trainer to train guys like CM Punk and Beth Phoenix and Maurice and The Miz and Ryback, and I mean the list goes on and on of guys, John Morrison and other guys that I worked with either from the ground up or helped polish up and put the finishing touches on before they went up to the main roster here in Louisville. And one of the things I absolutely loved and still do, and also the second time that I was involved, which was with when I helped to create the TNA developmental program with OVW, is that I got to write and produce and direct the TV. And God, some of the stories and the characters and the moments that we've created over the years were just, I mean, they were incredible. And I'm so excited to have another opportunity to do that. And if you want to watch wrestling and you enjoy the personas, the characters, and the interaction between the athletes, and listen, we've all known for decades, no one can tell me any different, that we've all known that wrestling is predetermined, that the outcome is known in advance before the wrestlers go to the ring, and but part of the fun is not knowing just exactly who is going to win or how they're going to win and where it's going to lead to in a logical fashion. And if you enjoy that, if you enjoy being surprised, if you enjoy, and not just a surprise like, hey, what, I didn't expect that, and what are they doing now? But if you enjoy surprises where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that, and oh, that's going to lead to this or that, then you're going to enjoy watching OVW. I mean, because that's the way we produce wrestling shows. That's the way we produce TV, is that with a logical progression of cause and effect and reaction and action and reaction, and most importantly, interaction. Try to make all of that come across as realistic as possible. And to where you as an audience are never sitting there wondering, hey, why'd they do that? What's going on? What happened to, they were telling this story between these two guys now for 3 weeks, and this week I don't see or hear anything about it. What happened to it? That doesn't happen with OVW TV. I take great pains to make sure that every step of the way you can understand it, follow it, and most importantly, care about it. Really invest emotionally in it, so that because you know that you're going to eventually see an outcome. It may not be the outcome you liked, and it might upset you, but it'll drive you to want to see more. And that's the whole fun of professional wrestling, is its unpredictability, its ability to allow you, the audience, to, even if it's just during the time that you're watching it, to buy into and believe that world. That's really a competitive sporting event you're watching, and these guys are really prize fighters, and it really matters whether they win or lose. And to you, it matters if they win or lose. And it's not just a great match; it's a match that's going to propel one of these two further up the ladder and give them a bigger and better opportunity to maybe win the heavyweight title. And that's why, really, honestly, is why you want to watch it. So
the entire wrestling world is going to be keeping an eye on this and seeing what you do. The internet blew up when you took over. And for those who are interested, I really suggest you guys stop over to ovwrestling.com. You can check out the website, and it's actually a really cool website. And it'll also get you over to the Ohio Valley Wrestling TV. It's on local TV there in Kentucky. In fact, you guys have your 1,000th episode coming up later on this year, right?
yeah, and I believe in early November. We're well on our way. We've got about 25 more episodes, I think it is, until we reach our 1,000th consecutive episode of television, broadcast television.
Which is
And
an
we're
amazing
looking to
feat.
expand our. Oh yeah, I mean it's incredible. I mean there's other than Raw, and maybe Memphis television, Memphis wrestling, the Jarrett's and Lawler's promotion. I really, to be quite honest, and I could be mistaken. Somebody out there might go, Al, you stated that, X, Y, Z. Well, could not be more mistaken. Well, you're right. I don't know, but I'm
And they
pretty
will.
confident that there aren't many, if other than just Raw and Memphis, that have that many consecutive episodes of broadcast television. It's an accomplishment.
For any show, not just a wrestling show, for any show, 1,000 episodes is an
Sure.
accomplishment. So ovwrestling.com is where you can check out everything Ohio Valley Wrestling. Check out the roster and the TV, and they'll link you to the YouTube page where you can watch a bunch of the TV and clips and see some of the matches, and also see Al make his debut kind of back at home again for the first time again.
Well, and support promotions like OVW Wrestling, support them, because that's where you're going to see truly the next, main events of WrestleMania are companies and groups where these new guys that you don't know, that you don't care about, go and get groomed and developed and learn their trade and their craft and go on to become WWE superstars.
I also noticed that a lot of these promotions, they bring in talents and names that you've heard before to get people out there, which is awesome. And to see these people, see you people get back out there and wrestle some more. But to see some of the names out there that do it, and a lot of times I think fans wonder why. And just last week I was listening to an interview, Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead, and Bobby said that he played his big shows with the Grateful Dead in stadiums, and that's where he made his money. And he plays in little tiny bars and venues with Rat Dog, and that's where he gets to do what he loves and play the music that he wants to play, and doesn't really gets to do it his way. And I would imagine for a lot of wrestlers, because you see a lot of guys that are out there working these shows, and you guys are doing it because you love the business, not because you have to go out to the VFW hall. You're doing it because you love the opportunity to get in the ring, I imagine, still, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like a drug. You get so addicted to that emotional high, that feeling of performing in front of an audience. And I know for me personally, I don't still perform. I don't still wrestle in the ring because I have to. I do it because I genuinely love it and enjoy it. And it's still such a challenge. It's actually more of a challenge to perform in front of several hundred people or even 1,000 people in a well-lit building than it is to go out and perform in front of 65,000 people in a half-darkened arena. The anonymity of the psychology of anonymity plays a big factor in the larger the event, the more predisposed an audience is to react emotionally, and the more anonymous an audience is, the more easy it is to manipulate that audience's emotions to a crescendo, because they no longer have to be concerned that their neighbors are going to see them across the ring reacting and caring and emoting. They don't have to be worried. But when you're in a well-lit building, there's only 1,000 people in that building, or 300 or 400 people in that building. Now they can not only see you, they can hear you. And people become very, very shy, very introverted, and they don't want to get caught up because they don't want to react as much, simply because they're too worried about what the people across the way that can see them are going to think of them. And it's a lot tougher to get them to forget and to become emotionally swept up in what you're doing. And that challenge is so much fun when you finally are able to do it and get the proverbial home run and get an audience to react so emotionally strong that they take some kind of physical action. They stand on their feet and cheer, or somebody is so angry they threaten to come over the rail and attack the heel. That never gets old. That challenge and that achievement never gets old. It's what really drives you to just want to keep doing it on a regular basis.
Well, it's a lot of fun to go out to those shows too. So if you're a fan of wrestling, like you said, to go out and see these shows and these promotions, to take the family out, it's really a cool experience. You get an opportunity to meet a lot of the guys, and they interact with the fans, and it really is a much different experience than going to a Raw or a SmackDown taping, where you're really just one of like you said, 20, 30, 10, 15, whatever it may be, thousands sitting in the stands. It's a neat experience to do that, and to see a lot of these guys that still get out there and do that on a regular basis. It's amazing, and it's amazing to me how you're still out there, and I know you're so modest, but you look better than you've ever looked in most opinion, and you still get out there and put on these awesome matches, and a lot of the guys that you wrestled with can't even walk right now, so it's obviously a testament to how well you've taken care of your body and continue to work with it.
Well, I just love what I do. I really, really do. And I've been very, very blessed to have gotten to do it as long as I've gotten to do it. And am grateful to all of the fans out there for supporting me throughout. And, but I'm moving to a different stage in my career now where, hopefully I won't get to wrestle as often. I'll still get to do it, but, my focus and my drive will be primarily LBW. And I'll really have to, curtail what I do as far as going to events around the world and spend as much time as I can there in OVW to really rebuild it back to what it was.
Well, speaking of your fans, which you just brought up, and I know that when we started talking about this, you said, does anybody want to hear another wrestling podcast? And we said, no, not really, but we're going to talk a bunch of Al Snow stuff and a bunch of different things and make it a little bit different. And the fans have been blowing up my email and inbox and the show's emails with a bunch of questions and stuff that they think we should talk about, which has really been cool. And I also notice how you interact with your fans on Twitter at The Real Al Snow. And there's times where I log onto Twitter and I just have 47 in a row down my wall of you thanking fans and also telling them how nice it was to meet them. And I think it's so cool that you take so much time out to interact with the people that take the time to tweet you and come out and see you, which is one of the reasons why the fans, I think, are so excited to hear this podcast. And we're going to touch on some of the stuff that people have reached out to me about today, because I figured we're doing this show for the fans, and if there's stuff that they want to know and hear about and some stuff that I'd like to hear about as well, then we should probably get into it, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. They can ask any question they want. The only dumb question is the one they don't ask.
That's right. Okay, so a lot of questions came up about, and a lot of these questions are repeat questions that you've already answered a million times. So some of them I'm going to take and put a little bit of a different twist on as well. So guys, if you hear part of one of your questions, thank you very much. So one of the things that you had mentioned was a lot of people that you had trained that have, names that we have heard before, and you've helped train and train with all sorts of people that have come through. And one of the names, I guess, is the Blue Meanie. And I've gotten some questions regarding Meanie, and he's also a fun follow on social media. So you had mentioned that when you train a wrestler, you are not necessarily just responsible for teaching them how to take a flat back bump and how to work a match, but if they were to hurt somebody or get hurt, or that reflects back on the trainer in some regards. So I imagine bringing him along in the business and things like that are also a big part of this. When the Blue Meanie is in that little schmaz and he's getting live rounds from JBL, you guys are in the car, and I know that you guys were driving together. You guys are in the car after that. what advice does Al Snow give to a blue meanie after something like that happens? What's the protocol? Do you have to just kind of take it and that's your initiation? Are you telling him he's got to give a receipt? What's the protocol on something like that?
Well, in that situation, it kind of caught both Meanie and I off guard. Caught Meanie more off guard than anybody because it looked a lot worse than what it actually was because Meanie had been split open the night before by a chair and had staples in his head. And when JBL hit him, and let me put it out there that JBL and Blue Meanie are, they're fine. They don't have any issues from it now.
Absolutely, it's long been over.
Whatever happened, and they settled it between themselves after it took place. He basically, at the time, Meanie was stunned and shocked and bleeding, and I didn't really get the chance to really speak to him because we were literally in the ring. And I just told him to stay away, from JBL. And then I, tried to get in between them and, tried to keep, misdirect JBL and try to keep him away from Meanie as much as I could when it happened. But, then you're busy getting involved with everybody else and continuing on with the match. And the advice I would give is that, Meanie should have just laid back into it. You cannot, you have to respect yourself. Respect is the most important thing to me in life because without it, you can't have anything else. You can't be friends with somebody if you don't, true, genuine friends. You can't be with somebody if you don't respect them. You can't genuinely love or care for somebody if you don't respect them. You can't trust somebody if you don't respect them. You really can't do real business, true business. That's where, it's reciprocal. If you don't trust the individual that you're doing business with, you don't respect them enough to trust them. Trust is really, it's everything. And respect is everything. And it was up to Meanie to go back and lay back into John. At that point, what's the worst that's going to happen? John's already punched him and not knocked him out.
Yeah.
He split him open, but that was because Meanie's staples came open. He basically has taken the worst that John had to offer, so he might as well give it back, and then, that was not the time or place. You never do those types of things in the ring because it doesn't just affect your livelihood. It affects everyone else's that's in the ring with you. I've always told guys and explained to them that if you have an issue with somebody, make sure it happens backstage, take them in a closed room, lock the door. That way you're not doing it for anybody's entertainment. You're not doing it to get yourself over. You're doing it to settle the issue. And simply say, hey, shut the door, lock it, and go, look, here's the situation. You and I are going to fix this one way or another, and we're not walking out of here until we do. And it's going to either be this way or the hard way. So
that's how I got my wife to marry me.
Yeah, well, it worked, Keep her locked up long enough, they'll give in to anything. So
that's right. You gotta get water eventually. No, so, and I hate to put you on the spot with that particular instance, but it's come up a few times. I've gotten a few messages about it, and I just thought to myself, I know that I don't know Meanie. I've never met him, but I have met him at ECW when I was just a fan and watched him through. But watched his interviews, and he just seems like a really awesome, nice guy. I don't see how he could be rubbing people the wrong way, and he was happy to be there, and he deserved to be there. That BWO thing was over big time, and you almost feel bad for him, and I couldn't help but wonder. I imagine at some point, or I thought maybe at some point he might have came to you and said, "Hey, how do I handle this?" And I'm just wondering what the protocol is because JBL was one of the guys, and do you suck it up to welcome to the club, or is there a receipt for that?
Well, it was at a point in Brian's career that it wasn't a welcome to the club. Brian had been in WWE and then had left at that point, and then brought back again for that show. So, like I said, that was up to Brian, and then he did what he felt was right for him. And just my advice, and advice is basically, if you're smart enough, I don't need to tell you. If you're dumb enough, you're probably not going to listen. So usually I try to avoid giving advice unless you ask for it. And he didn't have an opportunity to ask for it at that time. I mean, it was it kind of just happened, and there you go.
Anyone ever toss any live rounds at Al Snow in a match?
There were some times way back in the day, years ago, a long, long time ago, and it was a different business, and but a lot of those times, those were older wrestlers, and knowing me at the time, I probably had it coming, and they were probably trying to smarten me up, and well, it was a term we used to use, which was put the boots to you a little bit. Sometimes it didn't really make the impression it probably should have, and I probably could have learned a little quicker if I'd have smartened up faster and not gotten smacked around more. So,
Well, thank you, sir. Can I have another? You were doing as you should have.
yeah. But now, in those situations, now if I felt somebody was taking liberties, I had no issue with giving it back. It was just they knew enough then to stop that and then just take me down and hook me and make me scream or choke me till all the blood vessels in both my eyes burst or I poop my pants, things like that.
Now, later on in your career, I imagine as you were looking at who you were going to be working with, and sometimes you hear guys say, I saw that I was going to be going into a program with this guy, and I knew it was going to be a long few months, and because they were working with someone that was stiff. Was there ever somebody that was just so stiff that when you got into a program with them, you were like, shit, here we go?
There were guys that worked tight. There weren't very many guys that worked stiff, because if there were guys that worked stiff back in the day, then most people didn't work with them. And they just kind of, you could be the best wrestler in the world, legit wrestler. You could be awesome. You could be the biggest badass there is. You could be the toughest guy there is, but nobody wants to work with you. You're not going to draw any money. Ain't going to do you a bit of good. You know what I mean? And those guys didn't last long in territories because most of the guys that were in the territory didn't want to work with them. They were afraid they'd get hurt, or and the promoters didn't like to put titles on the guys because they were afraid they couldn't get them off of them. The guy decided to go into business for himself. There weren't many guys that would be able to take it back off of him. So, but those days are gone.
You had mentioned to me in the past that you're okay with working however the match is going to go, but if somebody's going to kick the shit out of you, you're going to kick the shit out of them right back, and then they can kind of decide how they want the rest of the match to go from there.
Well, yeah, I have no problem working with guys the way they want to work with me. It's just usually they don't want to be worked with that same way. You know what I mean? That's what usually ends up happening, is that they come in the back and they usually start complaining or got the boo-boo face because you've basically done exactly the same thing to them that they did to you. But I'll never be the first one to hit hard in unsafe places. I don't mind if you hit me hard as you want in a safe place, in a safe manner. That's fine. But when you hit hard in unsafe places, well, then now I'm going to do the same and at some point one of us is going to get tired of getting hit. A lot of that came from and has started, I hate to say, from the ability to only work once or twice a week. I like to work strong style, which basically I like to work stiff. I like to lay it in there. It's fine if you do. I mean, I don't mind. I'll do the same. But when you work 7 days a week, like everybody used to, then it kind of changes your mindset that Monday night you're gonna wrestle this guy, and I'm gonna wrestle you, Jarrett, and you like to lay it in. Well, guess what? I'm gonna lay it in too. Well, you're gonna get up tomorrow and you're gonna feel the effects of laying it in, and so am I. But we're gonna have to work tomorrow night. Then we're gonna have to work Wednesday night. Then we're gonna have to work Thursday night. Then we're gonna have to work Friday night. Then we're gonna have to work Saturday. Maybe double shot on Saturday, maybe another double shot on Sunday. At what point in time do you think you're going to get tired of getting hit really hard? Nobody in the audience is going to feel it. They're not going to appreciate it. They're still going to think that what you're doing is fake, because they're not going to buy into it, because we're still going to know that the outcome's predetermined. So the whole purpose for why you're hitting me like that ain't going to make any sense. Do you understand? So why do it?
I'd have been done playing that game on Monday night. I wouldn't want to play that game anymore. We would have found a new match. I can assure you.
And to be quite honest, the real talent, the real art of of the physical nature of professional wrestling is to take something and make it look believable and sell it, both parties sell it in such a way as to where you don't need to hit each other like that. That takes skill, and that takes talent, and that takes practice, and that takes hard work to learn. Hitting somebody as hard as you possibly can, and especially in an unsafe manner, in an unsafe place, doesn't take any of that. It just takes the requirement of you letting you, putting their face out there or their head out there or their neck out there, and then you taking a liberty and hitting them in an unsafe manner. And that's, I'm not downing anyone for doing it. It doesn't take any real talent or skill to do it. And if you like to do that and you like getting hit back, I would strongly suggest that for those guys out there, head over to mixed martial arts, take that up, enjoy it, go have fun. They're always looking for new fighters, and we'll just hang out here in the wrestling business and keep doing what we've been doing for decades and, making money.
You're exactly right. I always hate when people want to bring up the MMA to professional wrestling debate, and it's not a debate. These are not the same thing. They are not supposed to be. They're completely different. I guess they're similar in the fact that they're both contact, but they're doing a different thing. They're telling a different story. It's for a completely different mindset, I suppose. It's okay to enjoy both, and I know lots of fans that do enjoy both, and I understand why, but professional wrestling and MMA they're not supposed to be competing, in my mind. And that's how I feel. They're just satisfying two different things that you want, and if you're looking for one to be like the other, then as a fan you're mistaken, and as a worker you need to figure out which one you want to be in, because it's not the same.
No, it's not. I mean, technically, professional wrestling was the original, mixed martial arts, in very similar as far as in rules and application of those rules and, so forth. But, it's evolved in a different way, and MMA itself has evolved in a different way. And, and they each have their own unique timing, distance, and footwork. They each have their own unique approach, and as such, it should be enjoyed for the differences, not for their, compared for their similarities.
So one of the other things that I got a lot of comments and messages about was the little clip that we shared about some of the different words that wrestlers use, and we're going to go over all of them, and we're going to talk a little bit about all of them, and we talked about Mark a little bit already. And so when you hear a average fan, myself, somebody who's not in the business, any of the other shows that are out there, and we use these terms, we say it was a work, is this a shoot, do you cringe a little bit? It's almost like we haven't earned the right to use those words, but they're out there so much, they're used so much. And if you're a part of enjoying the business and listening to these interviews and listening to the podcasts, it's the everyday lingo now. It's almost become made such an open thing. As being 36 years in the business and still having a little bit of that old school, does it make you cringe a little?
It doesn't make me cringe. I mean, I kind of think it's cute. I think it's kind of amuses me that, when I hear people use, a fan use some words as if they know what they really, the connotation or the purpose or the definition of what it is, as if they really do understand it, and they use it out of context. I think it's funny when the wrestlers do that. It kind of frustrates me, because I feel like they should be taught, and they should understand the terms that they're using, so that they better understand what it is they're really attempting to do, and why they're attempting to do it, and what they're hoping to achieve when they do it. That frustrates me. I got to be honest, it does.
And that's why I asked. One of my favorite ones that I've heard you tell, and we did it, I think, when we were just kind of testing out some of the old equipment, and I'm going to ask you about it again. You started the job squad, and there is a difference between doing a job and doing a favor, right?
Yeah, there's a big difference, and and the guys think that when you lose, you're doing a job, and even the wrestlers, a lot of wrestlers, even old time wrestlers, a lot will say that, use that as a term nowadays. But that's not initially what it really was. Initially, it was jobber was a guy that was, a job guy was a when you let me go back. When you wrestled on in a territory, if you wrestled on TV, you didn't get paid for TV. It was basically an opportunity for you to promote yourself, whether you won or lost. If you were on TV, your name now meant something on a poster because they had seen you on TV. So they knew who you were, and potentially your name might sell some tickets. Whereas if you'd never been on TV in any manner, it's no different with any other product. If they don't see it on TV, they're not going to know it, not be aware of it, and then promoting it or advertising it, it's not going to result in any buys or purchases. So you being on TV was a benefit for you and helped you. So you didn't get paid for TV. The job guys were guys that, came in just for TV. They were expressly there to elevate or make the regular guys in the territory look good. And they were paid for the day. The reason they were paid for the day was because they were not going to go out on the live events and they were not going to make their money on the live events. They were only going to make it that one day. So it was a job for them, hence the term job guy or doing the job or jobber, because they were paid just for the day. They were not paid to utilize that television time. They weren't utilizing that television time to where now when they went up to a show, a live event on the loop in the territory, that their name was a factor as to how many people showed up at the live event. And they were, that was where the term carpenter came from, because there were a lot of very good guys, and they were termed carpenters because you could build a house with the guy, but you could never draw one with him. So you used him to elevate or make the guy that you could draw the house with look as good as possible.
So that's the difference between having the jobber and doing the favor, I guess.
Yeah, whenever you were asked, if you were in the territory, you were doing a favor, because it was always referred to as doing the favor, because at some point you might be the opening match for who knows for 2 months in a territory, but for whatever reason, all of a sudden you are the thing that now is getting over and people are coming to see the show. So now we're gonna capitalize. We're gonna, what we do, quote unquote, we're gonna push that. We're gonna push you. We're gonna take it and run with it. We're gonna try to see where it goes. So now we need all the guys that you did the favor for to now start returning that favor and start putting you over and elevating you up the card, so we can see if we can draw with you. And that's why it's called the favors, because hey, I'm doing you the favor of letting you go over on me, and I'm going to do everything I can to get you over. And now, when that time comes, if the need is there for you to return the favor, you do good business and you return the favor.
That's something that I never knew. I always thought, hey, a job was a job and everybody does a job. And I heard some people say the favor, the honor, and, I never knew that there was a difference. And so it's little things like that you're going to be filling people in on, that's going to make this show so cool, because you get an opportunity to actually learn a little bit about this business that we all love and enjoy so much.
And there is a difference between going over and getting over. You can let somebody go over on you, meaning they win, and you don't put them over, meaning you don't help them to get over. You don't take big bumps for them. You don't make them look better than they actually are. You just simply go out and that in those terms is just doing the job. You just go out there and you just go through the paces and do the job, and you don't do anything to help elevate the other person and truly get the guy over. You just let him go over. In that sense, too, that's doing the job.
And that's one of those things where a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing, and some people have a little bit of knowledge about it, and they turn on their laptop, and now they're Wrestling Podcast 101 or whatever their new show might be, and so there you have it. All right, so this next topic, shit, I hate bringing it up because I know how much you hate it, but we're going right at it. Last week on Something to Wrestle With, Bruce Prichard, they covered the Big Boss Man. They covered his career in total. So let me start off by saying I'm a big fan of Something to Wrestle With. I listen. You were a special guest at one of their live shows. I'm a big Bruce Prichard fan. Of course, they got to the kennel in the cell match with you and the Boss Man, and Bruce shit all over it like it was you and the Boss Man's fault that the dogs were not the trained dogs. Now, we don't have to get into it too much. We've heard a million times you were okay with it. You wanted the trained dogs. You did not get trained dogs. That is not your fault. So I'm going to ask some questions about this match because Meltzer gives it -3 stars, and this all has to be based on the fucking dogs. So if your takeaway from this match and this feud was that dogs didn't bite people in a match, then I think as a wrestling fan there's a huge issue, because if you actually watch the match, and that's what I'm going to ask, did you and the Boss Man at any point during that match realize, wow, these fucking dogs are not going to do anything close to what they're supposed to do? We've got to step it up here. Or did you guys work the same match it was going to be no matter what? Because the match starts with you climbing along the cell like a monkey bars to avoid the dog and jump over to the cage, and then you take the superplex bump and you guys both bleed. And as far as the hardcore matches for those days go, it was a pretty good fucking match in the ring.
Well, we certainly couldn't, we couldn't do anything of what you would think you would do or have an idea of what you would do, simply because you couldn't. The whole crux, and please understand, and I've said this I don't know how many times, I'm not defending anything that I did or didn't do, because at the end of the day, my responsibility was to take shit and make shoe polish. That's the number one rule in wrestling, is that, regardless of whatever situation you're thrust in, when you get out there, it's your responsibility to do the absolute most and the best that you can. There's no such thing as a word as can't. You have to come up with something. But that being said, and again, I'm not making excuses. I'm just stating a fact. You build an entire months of an angle, of a story, and the crux, the gimmick of that story, of that angle, are animals that you've sold to the audience, the idea that they're going to be in this cage, like they're rabid animals ready to ravage and tear apart anybody that's dumb enough to get caught by them, and that they're the biggest threat. It's like fire. It's like those fire matches. Those fire matches aren't great, with Kane and The Undertaker, but the whole match is built around, just like a barbed wire match or a fire match, is that one guy's trying to get the other guy into that point of danger, the point of no return, shoving him close to the edge of the cliff. For Bossman and I, those were the dogs. But you can't do that when every one of those not one of those dogs had any kind of actual training. One dog had some obedience training, and that was it. But I get it. I mean, I understand, why Bruce, shit all over the match, and because I'm an easy target. I'm not. I don't have any position or stroke or anything to where he's going to feel any repercussions from me on it. If it were somebody else that were in a better position, I'm sure wouldn't be so as stiff. And again, I admit it was my responsibility to, and Boss Man too, God bless his heart, for us to, take shit and make shoe polish. But people can say whatever they want to say, but the fact, this isn't me making it up. This is a fact that from the moment I was approached about this, and every single opportunity I had that I had a conversation, I pointed out we need to have trained animals. And I was placated and said, oh, don't worry. You don't have to, it'll be there. It'll be there. Okay. Yeah, we're going to have trained animals. And I'm like, we have to, guys. We're building the entire thing around this whole story around these animals. And you're selling the idea that what I've imagined in my head, and I'm sure the audience has too, is that inside this cage, these animals are going to be free and are going to be roaming and they're going to be rabid and they're going to be ready to rip and shred anyone who comes near. They're going to be like sharks on patrol or piranha. How are we going to get out of that interior cage through them and out through the exterior cage without getting eaten alive? But now we go out there, and instead of that, which is what you've sold for months, instead of that, we now have dogs that are urinating, defecating, and fornicating to where you can't even show them on TV. And it's, and then going forward, the easiest thing to do is now, they don't, and most people don't even really mention Boss Man, which is good. I'm glad that they don't. But because Mick Foley made such a joke about it, they now throw all the responsibility onto me. Now, I'll accept, again, the responsibility of the fact that once I was put into that position, it was still my responsibility to deliver some kind of respectable match, even though, the bar was set in such a way that inevitably it's going to be tough. I mean, and I'm not making excuses. It just, I'm still at most situations I can say, hey, if I knew then what I know now, I could have made more of it or made it better. But in this situation, I don't know. I mean, that's a tough spot to be put in. Okay, we're going to do an electrified cage match. And the whole idea is, the whole basis, everything we've sold is that this cage is electrified. And if you shove somebody into it, they're going to get this deadly shock. And the last thing they want is to be shocked. And now, the first time the guy touches the cage just kind of goes and doesn't make, barely makes a noise and barely a spark, and now how do you work out the jeopardy of that for the audience and to where they care that one of you is going to be shoved into it or want to see the heel get shoved into it by the babyface when there's no threat of anything terrible happening. So say what they want. It doesn't change the fact that throughout the entire angle, and I'm sure, of course, Bruce is going to try and put it on me because if I remember correctly, Bruce was in the office back then, which means that to some degree, in some way, he was a little responsible.
Hear that, Bruce? You're a little responsible as well.
I don't know if he was, well, he was. I mean, he was part of talent relations and part of the TV production. And, I don't know who specifically didn't bother or drop the ball. But at the end of the day, the best part they had was they came to me afterwards and they go, well, we did have one guy with a trained dog, but he backed out. I'm sorry, you're telling me that you have one guy with a trained dog when the entire cage was supposed to be filled with dogs? One dog's not going to do it. I can tell you verbatim. I said repeatedly, we need trained animals, highly trained attack animals, all trained from the same kennel by the same trainer who will stand outside that cage and give verbal commands for these animals where he says, Gesundheit, and they're ready. They're barking, they're ready to attack, they're slathering at the mouth. And the minute we come anywhere near the edge of that cage, they go after us. That didn't happen, and the reason it didn't happen is because when I got there that morning, I found out that they had just waited to the last second, called a veterinarian clinic, and got the list of names of people who owned Rottweilers that lived in the Charlotte area, called them up, asked them if they'd show up, and I walked around and found out one of them had some obedience training, and that was it. So, yeah, everybody can say what they want, and you're right. I was responsible. I should have and could have tried to do more, but I wasn't responsible for those animals. And I wasn't responsible for choosing to simply wait and call a veterinarian clinic hoping that I would get just owners who happened to have some Rottweilers when I'd sold throughout for months on TV the entire idea that these things were going to be like vicious sharks swimming on all fours around that cage and ready to eat somebody alive. And that wasn't what we gave them.
So fuck you, Bruce.
No, not fuck you, Bruce.
And check out something to wrestle with.
He just likes to, yeah, check out something to wrestle with, and you can hear more of Bruce busting somebody else's balls, but probably in a little more of a safer manner because he feels pretty confident he can do it with me.
Well, hey, he can say and do what he wants from there. He's a big shot. He's on the network now. They've made it. They've made it to the promised land. So
listen, I couldn't be happier for him. I'm thrilled. I really am thrilled for both him and Conrad. Good for them.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm just busting balls. Like I said, I enjoy his show, but that was one of the things that came up. And these matches, these hardcore matches that the WWF, this hardcore division that they had going, was this something that everybody was supposed to be taken serious, or this had to be a little tongue-in-cheek with a lot of the stuff that was going on in these? I mean, you guys are hitting each other with plants and fighting in the snow. I mean, were we supposed to think that this is 100% hardcore, or were you guys doing a lot of this stuff to have some fun as well?
You were doing what was available or what was there that was just naturally should have lived organically in the moment. That was the idea, and the idea of trying to get across or sell that anything goes. I think the reason that WWE stopped doing them was that, and I'm facing a similar situation and really a big quandary prior to really, I haven't fully taken over OVW. They've, some of the guys that were doing things, they came up with, and it was a good idea. They came up with this Anarchy Rules title, which is similar to a hardcore championship. And this awesome group of people with this welding class made this beautiful, really cool looking hardcore belt to represent it.
I saw that. It's really cool.
It is. But I posed the question that I was like, man, we got to be so careful now what we do and how we do it, because we can't defend this thing all the time. Because if we do, what does it make the stipulation? When you have a situation where you need to make a stipulation match now to basically even the odds, keep that in mind, even the odds that, to where the babyface now, you've taken away a weapon or a tool that the heel has been using to gain the advantage over a babyface or to prevent the babyface from truly beating him. You now are going to even those odds and allow for the babyface to finally get that win and get justice. How are you going to sell that to where it's special or different when we're constantly having an anything goes type of match all the time? So now we're painted ourselves in a corner where now those stipulation matches don't carry the same connotation or the same gravity as they once did, because they only happened once in a while when we're doing the Anarchy Rules matches, and those are happening pretty frequently, and sometimes they have bigger, crazier things happen in those Anarchy Rules matches than they do in the Anything Goes matches between a babyface and a heel that are just having a regular angle.
And WWF at the time, WWE hardcore division, obviously was something that was an answer to or some sort of quench for the ECW fans' thirst, but it felt nothing like fucking ECW. ECW had that small arena, organic. WWE could not recreate that hardcore feel. I think fucking Skip lost the hardcore title in a ball pit somewhere, maybe, if I remember correctly. That's so, I understand, they were doing what they had to do, but it just, to me, I think a lot of really good wrestlers, great wrestlers, even yourself included, fell into that hardcore genre for too long, when you guys could have been doing more. But it was a spot for a bunch of guys, and it was great TV time, and I know you guys had a lot of fun doing the matches. It certainly gave you a chance to do something a little bit different. But I'm just, a lot of times I get messages and emails and, oh, Al's a hardcore legend, and it was, and I don't know if that's necessarily what you would want to be remembered for.
I'm just happy to be remembered, to be quite honest. I mean, that was the goals when I first started out, were to was to be able to make a good living doing what I love to do, have matches that people would remember, moments that would create memories. That genuinely was. And the other was to create a name that people would know who I was, years from now. So if they, hey, he's a hardcore legend, or I remember him doing this, or I don't care. I'm thrilled that they remember me, because that means I've achieved that goal when I first got in.
Do you remember what was the first paycheck that you got and you went, holy shit, now I'm making it? How much was that check that you looked down at and went, yeah, here we go. I got here.
Well, I made $25 for the very first match I ever had, May 22nd of 1982. It was a 2-ring, 20-man over the top rope battle royal. I made $25 payoff for that. And then, which was, it was pretty respectable, especially considering I was just starting out. That was the first match. That was a bit of a surprise, but it was a good house. So, and then I think the week after or something, I went to St. Louis out to the Chase, and I did 3 TV matches or something, and I made like $100, and I was like, wow, I was rich, because I was 18 years old. And I made $100 in one day.
Spent 105 that
and that
night.
And that was back in 1982. And yeah, I probably spent 110 and that was when I got, you get the payoffs, no matter how little or how much it was, a lot of the old timers would always stand there and they go, look, remember, kid, it's not about what you make, it's about what you save. And, they were right. It's, because you never know when your run's going to end. You never know, how far or how much you're going to get or what you're going to do. And, you just take it and make it as much as you can while you can, and then put as much away as you can at the same time, but still enjoy your life.
Okay, so we know you're humble and you had a great beginning. What was the first big check that you got from, whether it be one of the territories? I mean, what you got, $1,000, $1,200? When did you know? Okay, now I'm making enough money to do this thing.
I don't think there was ever one of those moments. I was just doing it and knowing that I could do it, and I was doing it and making a living. There were times I wasn't making anything and was cooking food on the engine of my car, but I was doing what I loved to do. I just never thought about it. Never gave it a second thought. I just was so into doing what I was doing.
When does a professional wrestler smarten their children up? I know you have quite a few kids. How many kids do you have?
I have 6.
6 kids, yeah, absolutely. Jesus. So
Yeah.
six kids. When do you smarten them up that daddy's working and I'm not really talking to this mannequin head, or that guy's really not trying to rip my head off with this chair? Or do you not smarten them up? How does that work?
You try not to. You try to go as long as you can without doing that, because it's kind of like Santa Claus. You kind of taking some of the magic out of the world when you smarten them up. So you try to hold off as long as you possibly can. Try to come up with explanations, thoughts, ideas, reasons, so that, if they get upset by it, you can explain it to them in some manner to where you can still keep it real for them. It's still fun, but at some point in time, the magic time ends, and you gotta, as it does with, the Tooth Fairy, and it does with, Santa and the Easter Bunny and everything else. And unfortunately, you gotta smarten them up. You gotta, explain it to them, and you can almost see it in their face a little bit, of hint of disappointment. And, you feel kind of bad when you do, because you want them to enjoy it for as long as they can, and just take it for what it is. And then they shift once you've smartened them up a little bit, and then they almost become like a smart mark, now now I know. So now I have a completely different understanding of it than what I once did. Now I'm on the inside, I get, no, just because you're my kid and you've seen it and you've grown up around it, you have a greater understanding, but you've not yet been in the ring and had to do it. So you really still don't know. You think you do.
Have any of them ever wanted to get into the business? Ever shown any interest?
Not really. No, no. They've talked. A couple of them have talked and mentioned it. Um, but you would know if I've never tried to encourage or discourage them from pursuing it if they wanted to, and it was really something they were passionate about doing. I would do everything I could to help them and facilitate it for them. But I know in my heart that it's got to be something they really want to. They have to be passionate to do. That's the most important thing. It's not just oh, I'm going to want to do this. It's I'm going to do it on a whim. It's you really have to be driven and passionate about wanting to do this. And if you're not, it's not advisable to pursue it. It really isn't.
This was something that I always wondered about. Did you bring the kids to the matches ever? Did you ever like to bring them around and have them around the boys? And I mean, did they get that behind the scenes type look?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I've gotten, that's one of the great things about the wrestling business. One of the downsides is that you spend a lot of time away from your children. You miss a lot of them growing up, but at the same time, it gives you a lot of opportunities to take them places and do things with them and let them see things and experience things that otherwise they'd never gotten to see or do or experience if it hadn't been for the opportunities that presented them through wrestling, and that's awesome. And especially when you're in WWE at the time when I was in WWE, I mean, we were all like a big family, like a big dysfunctional family, but a family nonetheless. And it's funny to take some of the kids around that were small back then and bring them back around now. And I do the same thing with a bunch of the boys' kids that I see now, and it's like so shocking, and it drives home how much time has passed that you don't even realize when the last time you saw some of these kids were 3 or 4 years old or 6 or 7 years old, and now they're married, got a family of their own, and you're just like stunned. I mean, it's like, oh my God, where did the time go? I mean, it's amazing.
One of the things that I've noticed is you travel like no other. You're doing shows, you're doing conventions, you're doing events, whether it's for Collar and Elbow or an appearance, whatever it may be. And it seems like on about like 90% of these, you have a wife and or child along with you. It seems like you still like to bring them out and have them included and do
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of that stuff.
Yeah, very much so. I love to take them along. And my wife's my wife because she gets it. She gets it the same as I do. And we sit there and she'll rib me. And, when some of the fans, well, I love all the fans, but, let's face it, some of them come up and it gets a little awkward, and I like to call them ear bleeders because, the conversation's ended, but apparently they don't realize it or they're holding on. And she'll start the conversation and then just walk off and start playing on her phone or something, and just leave me hanging there and just look over and laugh. And, but then I'll get her back, I'll find somebody that unusual person that kind of stands out in even an unusual crowd, and I'll make sure that they come over and strike up a conversation with her, and I'll just walk off and just leave her hanging. So we kind of do that kind of stuff back and forth all the time.
You guys have a lot of fun back and forth on social media, and it looks like Jessica would have the entire house filled with animals if she had her way, most of which would probably attack and kill you guys in your sleep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, before I met her, she had like two snakes, and then thank God she got rid of those things. Before we started living together, because I was like, man, I can't do that. I'm sorry, I love you, but I can't live in the house if there's going to be snakes in there. I just can't do it. She's like, oh, well, they wouldn't hurt you. Every once in a while, they'd get out or something. I'm like, whoa, well, I'd be down the road. That'd be a big nope, nope, nopety, nope, nope, nope. And I'll go stay the night at the hotel. And when you corral the snake, I'll be back.
Yeah, that's a little over the top for me. Again, I don't mind a dog or a cute little bird or something like that, but you start having snakes crawling around the house, man, I am fucking out. No way.
We've adopted and fostered three baby goats. I was in England and because my wife used to raise dairy goats, and then she has a friend that still does, and sometimes she needs help when she has a bunch of the babies, especially the bucks. Sure enough, I came home from England, and my wife was like, I got a little surprise for you. And the way she said it, I was like, I couldn't help it. I was like, are you pregnant? Which neither one of us can, that's not going to happen. But I was like, are you pregnant? And she's like, well, I did have a baby. And I'm like, what? And I opened up the back seat of the car, and there in the box was Jordy, baby goat. That, of course, who did he attach to? Me. And wouldn't leave my side. And the minute that I was not in his sight, he started screaming bloody murder. Follow me around the yard, do everything with me, lay in the bed with me.
So it's literally like having a baby all over again.
Pretty much, yeah. And then we got the twins. We got the twin goats. They broke me. They wore me out. I told her, I said, I got to take a break after these guys, because they were killing me. Because I don't know how people handle having human twins, because I couldn't handle having twin goats, because one would go one way and the other one would go the other. Gee, but
no wonder you're wrestling and booking yourself every weekend. This is the only way you can get out and get any rest.
They wore me out, man.
Yeah, well, listen.
They wore me out.
Babies, kids, I've got I know better than anyone. I've got a 6-month-old right now, and I can't help but feel bad for him every time I'm feeding him and he looks up and realizes I'm not his mother, and he just gets that disappointed look on his face like, fuck. How did I get
Oh, don't
stuck
worry. He'll have that for the rest of his life.
Yeah. I'm learning that from the other two as well, which has been going real well. That's a lot of fun too.
I've learned a long time ago. I've raised 6 of them. 1, cough syrup's your best friend. Okay. 2, when they get old enough and they don't like the taste of cough syrup anymore, and they kind of get smart up to what it happens, just go to the old vet. Get yourself one of those dart guns. They're outside in the yard, especially if it's fenced in. Nobody's going to get hurt. You just shoot them, dart them. They fall in the grass. You'll go shopping. They'll be laying out in the grass. Nothing will get in the fence, so don't worry. They just wake up, have a little tan, and maybe a little grass on their face. You come home, you're fine.
Fenced in, you've got it. With my 5-year-old now, my wife caught us when he was a baby and just started crawling. He was just inconsolable one night, and I actually knew I was falling asleep in the living room while he was on those little floor mat playing, and I took the belt off of my wife's robe and I tied one end around his waist and the other end around my ankle, so he could only get as far as the rope would let him get. And she actually woke up and came out and found us, and he was asleep on the floor, and so was I, and I had him tied to my leg.
That's called good daddying. That's what that's called.
You got to think outside the box sometimes with these kids. I'm telling you, it's incredible.
Dude.
So I see your wife, and I told her, hey, I know you guys, you do a lot of traveling. You guys ever get out to Portland? I'll take her to go see some sea lions and some animals. We have some amazing stuff out this way.
She would love that.
Yeah, there's these caves you get to walk right down into and see all the sea lions. There's just hundreds of them in there. It smells awful, but it is really it's really an amazing experience. Now, you guys do all sorts of traveling, and you've got all sorts of traveling coming up. You're back and forth between England and Scotland, I believe you were in most recently. Yeah. What's Al Snow's favorite destination?
I love to just travel and go see places I've never seen before, but one of the places of all time that I loved the most was South Africa, and what a gorgeous country, and just amazing to go to, like Cape Town and or to go out and go on safari and to get to see some of these animals actually out in the wild as opposed to in a zoo, and just incredible experiences. I mean, probably some of the more amazing memories I've ever had of going on a trip or from going to South Africa, and just astounding.
I've never been, but I hear that it's absolutely beautiful. I think it's so funny because fans want to know so much about you, and I know that you don't believe it and you find it funny, but people ask these kinds of questions. They want to know this type of information, and I struggle because people are like, well, what's he doing when it's not wrestling related? And I'm like, well, he's either wrestling in a ring, he's working with a wrestling company, he's selling wrestling t-shirts, or he's doing wrestling conventions. I mean, at this point, 36 years in, you still fucking love wrestling, and
Oh yeah.
we were talking about it. You're still a fan of it. You still watch it like a fan. You enjoy it. You enjoy seeing what's happening next. And I think that's what's going to make this podcast so much fun. Is that a lot of these personalities and people that are doing these shows, they almost seem like it's begrudgingly. All right, I'll go do this. You enjoy talking about wrestling and watching wrestling.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do. I still to this day am just a fan of professional wrestling. And wrestling in general. But I just love it. I mean, and I say it all the time. I mean, I've been blessed to get to do what I've loved to do for as long as I've gotten to do it, and that's not an exaggeration. That's a genuinely I've been blessed to do it, and it doesn't matter to me the platform or how big or how small or how local or how national or international it is. I've traveled all over the world and done it in many different places and many different forums and many different levels, and I enjoy every single time I go out there. And every single time I go out there, I get butterflies and I get nervous, and I have that anticipation before I walk through that curtain, you know, um, and that's all I care about. I mean, it's people get caught up on, and well, I want to be a success, and I tell guys all the time, well, what do you think of being a success? Well, I want to wrestle for WWE. Well, yeah, I mean, you do want to wrestle for WWE because it's the biggest, most effective platform to sell yourself. But it's being successful is doing what you love to do and doing it as long as you want to do it, as long as you still love doing it. And I'm telling you, I've been so lucky to get to do this. It's just been so awesome, and I'm so grateful that I have OVW now, because I quite honestly I didn't know what I would do once this came to an end, because everything comes to an end, everything dies, everything has its life, and then you got to learn to live, move on and live without it. And but through OVW, I can still express that passion that I have for the wrestling business.
And the fans certainly still enjoy you, and you're still out there doing lots of cool stuff. Now, the difference between being an everyday Joe is charity. For me, is we go to the preschool or to the elementary school and we pick up trash and clean off spray painting. For celebrities like Al Snow, it's eating a 96-ounce steak for charity. That's for children's cancer, and over 2,000 people tuned in to watch you eat this steak for charity. And that's just amazing to me. And I think it's so awesome that you're out there doing that kind of stuff. And, again, I don't mind cleaning up around the school for the neighborhood. But, if it ever comes down to, if you need help eating another steak, or if you're going to judge a bikini contest for diabetes or get hand jobs to fight lupus, I would like to be there to help with those charitable donations.
Well, I'd much rather do those than try to eat 6 pounds of steak again. But that was all my great friend Chad Miller. He organized that. He's an awesome guy, and he put that together. He got all the competitors, talked me into it, and then they raised $14,000 that night. Which was incredible that they were able to do that. Just amazing. And I tried my best, but I came in third. The guy that won was a former NFL Buffalo Bills player. He had 20 ounces of steak left. So basically, he'd ate over 5 pounds of steak. He had 1 pound left. The guy next to him was a basketball player, former U of L, University of Louisville basketball player. He had 22 ounces of steak left, which if I'd have been him, I'd have been hot, because all that was basically just one more bite, and he'd have had a chance to at least tie, And then I had 32 ounces of steak, which means I ate 4 pounds of meat in an hour. And let me tell you something, Jarrett, man, I hit about the 35-minute mark, and it was like just running into a physical wall. All I did was I started thinking, I can't quit. How much more time do I have? If I can just last the next 15 minutes. And I just started worrying more about the clock than I did about eating the amount of meat that I had left. That was it. I actually got the meat sweats at that time.
I believe you did. I saw that thing. I tuned in for a little while and tossed in a few smart ass comments and then got out of there. But huge shout out to Eric Wood. I know all of my friends and family back in Buffalo are going to be tuning in, listening, and supporting us. And, they're all big Bills fans. So when I heard that Eric Wood won and not you, I thought it was really cool. Unfortunately, he had to end his career a little bit short, but an awesome guy who did a lot of really cool stuff in Buffalo and obviously is continuing doing that kind of stuff. So but yeah, I saw that you were out there and he's eating a steak for charity, and I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck do I get on this program?
Listen, it was delicious for about 15 minutes, and then it started changing.
Yeah, and like I said, I know everybody had a lot of fun with you watching it and all the comments that were coming in. But the next morning, I woke up and I went to go check the video, and I saw it said like 2.2 thousand views, and I thought, holy shit, Al is still so over that over 2,000 people watched him eat a fucking steak last night.
Yeah, it's the first time I went live because I haven't really had a purpose or a reason to do it or anything that I felt was interesting enough, and thought that at least that was entertaining to watch me gorge myself on 6 pounds of meat. So,
well, you want to know what? You did a great job. You look supernatural doing it. So you might want to throw a few more out there, guys. Follow Al on Facebook at Al Snow. You give him a follow. You could follow him on Twitter at The Real Al Snow. He likes to post a lot of pictures. Like I said, he interacts with the fans. Occasionally, he'll put up a video of something that's going on. Occasionally, I'll put one up to bust his balls in return. But we all have a bunch of fun while we're doing it. So. What's coming up now for Al Snow? What's your schedule look like over the next few weeks? Where you got any appearances? You wrestling anywhere? You signing autographs? What are you doing?
Well, I am really going to start ramping up my involvement with OVW over the next couple weeks. Working on a lot of, updating and recreating a lot of the presentation and really trying to develop the platform so that the talent really have the best opportunity to look like stars as much as they possibly can. And just start building the whole thing from the ground up again. And got all the bones there. I just gotta build it up. And I'm supposed to go to Costa Rica in 2 weeks. And I'll be going over to Santiago, Chile, in June. The Al Snow Wrestling Academy there, we're opening up a second location in Concepcion in Chile. I'm excited about that. A couple weeks ago when I went to Scotland and the UK, I stopped off at RWA, the ASWA affiliate up in Cheshire, and had a great time there that day and watched the show that night and the students. And just gonna, I got a paper route now. I'm gonna be mowing lawns since the weather's changed. Shining shoes, yeah.
Still fighting small animals for a fee.
Still fighting small farm animals for money. Yes. I will take on goats or maybe chickens or ducks. If they're geese, I won't. They're starting to get too big. Cattle, I'm not going to do that. But if there's a small farm animal, then I'll go for it. I'll choke them out.
Yeah, we might have to set something up. Something else that I'm looking forward to is, now, a lot of this, we talked about your schedule, also the difference in the fact that you are recording from home in Kentucky, the bluegrass state, and I am in Portland, known for a completely different kind of grass, and we've got that 3-hour time difference between us. One of the things I'm looking forward to is getting back to the East Coast this summer and coming out to Louisville and actually checking out OVW and maybe doing a podcast right there from OVW while it's going on.
Yeah, we'd have to do it. We should do it live, and that way we could take call-ins and answer questions and all of that right as it happens. That'd be great.
Absolutely. I think that'd be something that'd be a lot of fun, and turn some of the fans onto what's going on at OVW, and let some of the OVW fans kind of know what we've got going on here. Again, guys, please visit collarandelbowbrand.com. If you're a wrestling fan, like Al said, of any kind, not just WWE or professional wrestling, but if you've done any kind of wrestling, or if you've got a wrestling fan in your life, these shirts are really awesome. Well worth to check it out. You can use code SNOWMAN, SNOWMAN. That'll save you an additional 10% at checkout. And stop over there, check out this new military shirt, as they're donating some proceeds. Where are those proceeds going again, Al?
They're going to the American Legion, which does an awesome, just a variety of different programs for our veterans of all the different services. They do an amazing job of really helping those guys out, and a portion of all those proceeds are going to be contributed to the American Legion. We still have the program where you can round up your purchase to the closest dollar, and that money is donated to the Cauliflower Alley Club and their charitable efforts for former wrestlers and boxers. They started back in the 1950s. We've contributed well over $1,000 in the short amount of time that we've had the program going on, and we look forward to contributing more to the Cauliflower Alley Club, just to give back to the wrestling business that we all love.
Absolutely. I've rounded up every single shirt that I've purchased so far to put towards the cause. And like I said, these shirts are just absolutely amazing. Also, wrestling fans, please check out ovwrestling.com. Check out everything that Al's got going on at Ohio Valley and what they're working on over there. If you're a wrestling fan, you owe it to yourself to take a few minutes to check out something a little bit different. And like Al said, he's going to be getting his grasp on this thing even more as we're moving forward. So looking forward to seeing all the changes that are happening out there. Again, you can visit Al. He is on Twitter at The Real Al Snow, on Facebook at Al Snow with the blue check mark. There are some crazy Al Snow pages out there. You may not want to get stuck following some of those. You've got a few Al Snow imposters out there.
Yes, I do, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I inform all of them. I don't mind, but if you're going to fake being a celebrity, I would aim the bar higher. You know what I mean? Just I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't fake being me. So why would you?
We've got the show's Twitter page up. We just started working that. That can be found at The Real Snow Show. Even though our show name is Inside Al Snow's Head, so many people have already taken so many variations of your name on Twitter that we went with The Real Snow Show. So please hop on there, give us a like and a follow as well. You can find us on YouTube as well, and we're also going to start to add some additional content, some stuff that we came up with there, some stuff from Al's career. Other than that, Al, I think we had a pretty good chat. We covered some of the stuff that the fans were looking at. Look forward to getting back next week and getting another episode out and just kind of getting inside Al Snow's head a little bit more and find out a little bit more about this business that we love so much.
Well, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to us getting it out and doing this on a regular basis and interacting with the fans, and hopefully they'll ask questions. Ask any question you want. The only dumb one's the one you don't ask. So we'll answer them all.
Yeah, and I again, guys, we appreciate your patience. We understand that it's been a little bit crazy and rocky, but we dove right into this in the middle of WrestleMania season and a bunch of other things that were going on, and now I think we have a pretty good grasp of how we're going to get this down. We've got the rigs all set up. Nikolai's got us sounding good, and from here on out, we'll be able to rock and roll. So anything you guys want to know and hear about, again, you can visit us on Twitter at The Real Snow Show. You can find us on Facebook at Inside Al Snow's Head. You can shoot us an email at insidealsnowshead@gmail.com. If you have an upcoming event, something that you would like to feature, a business that you would like to hear Al and I talk about on here, shoot us an email at insidealsnowshead@gmail.com. We would look forward to doing that as well. Al, I think we nailed it today. We got some cool stuff out there to them, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to everything we're going to do moving forward.
Me too, Jarrett.
All right. Hey, guys, we look forward to it. Thank you so much. Give us a like and a share. And until next week, this was Inside Al Snow's Head.